Lily is under the tree and making me a little nervous. Lily. Hi, welcome to this vlog. This is Lily. Are you done? Hello? Okay, she's still making me kind of nervous, but we're just gonna go with it. Hi, my name's Erica. Welcome to this vlog. It is no, it is not Wednesday, it is Thursday. Today is Thursday, December 3rd, and I am still wearing my Christmas sweater that I wore to school today. It says, "Have a meowy Christmas," with this weird cat on it. And that's also why you may hear some slight jingling from my Christmas sweater. But anyway, I thought that I would go ahead and start this vlog, however long this vlog lasts. Just ignore her. So it is the first week of December, and I do have some big December reading plans. If you saw my December TBR, then you know that my goal is to read 12 books this month, and that is the most books I will have ever read or attempted to read in a single month. Okay. But here we are, we're trying it. So I thought that I would take you along and keep you updated on what I'm reading and how it's going. So the first book that I have been reading that I am really loving right now is Get a Life, Chloe Brown. It is a romance novel that I am really enjoying. Of the books that I have sort of planned out to read for the month of December, I thought that I would start with this one because I am still just like living for this book and like the warm, fuzzy feelings that it gave me. So I thought that I would go for a romance novel following this one, and I have just heard such good things about Get a Life, Chloe Brown, that I thought I would start this one and have it be sort of the first book that I read for the month out of the 12 that I will hopefully read. So this book is about Chloe Brown, and she has a near-death experience. She is like almost hit by a car, and she realizes that nothing really flashes before her eyes. Like, she realizes that she hasn't been doing all the things that she wants to. She hasn't been living a very exciting or fulfilling life, and it sort of encourages her to make some changes in her life, and she decides to make a list called her Get a Life list. And it's just a list of brave things or things that she wants to do that she thinks will make her braver. So this is Chloe, and this is her cat, Smudge. And then this is Red, and he's the superintendent of her building. They sort of hate each other. It's a little bit of a hate to love, but like barely a little bit. And they have such a cute romance. And I am a little over halfway through. I am on chapter 15, page 224. So that is where I'm currently at. So Chloe is very much like a homebody. She's kind of a nerdy girl. She likes video games. She is like a web designer, and that's what she does for a living, and she's able to work from home obviously because of that. And part of why she stays home so much and is just not as social as she used to be is because she actually suffers from fibromyalgia and experiences a lot of chronic pain and chronic fatigue. And Red, he is the superintendent of her building. He rides a motorcycle. He's an artist. This book is written in third person, but it does like alternate between like each of their perspectives. So even though it is in third person POV, you still get like what's going on in Chloe's brain, and then it'll switch and you'll get what's going on in Red's brain. And honestly, I think that like alternating limited third person narrative is probably my favorite, actually, now that I'm saying that. I think that that's my favorite sort of style, and so I'm really loving sort of the back and forth of what each of them are thinking and how they are expressing or not expressing their thoughts and feelings to each other. So it's been fun. I'm really enjoying this, and honestly, I am probably going to finish this tonight. I think that after I film this and maybe after I film my November wrap up, because I feel like that's something that I need to do soon-ish, and it's probably, well, I don't know, it might be something that I get to this weekend, but I might go ahead and try and do that before I jump into this, because I know that I'm just going to be like in this for the rest of the night probably, because I'm really, really enjoying it, and I'm not going to want to put it down probably. I also want to finish this because I do have some other plans like going into this weekend, so I'll share a little bit about what I am planning to read next. So I am reading 2 thrillers this month, both of which are actually buddy reads that I am doing with other people, so that's exciting. But one of them is called The Lost Causes of Bleak Creek, and this is one that I'm reading with my friend Taylor, and she and I are supposed to talk about our first little section on Sunday, so that's something that I still need to read. And then I am buddy reading this one with, or this is The Silent Patient, and I'm buddy reading this one with my brother's girlfriend Leah, and she and I are going to hopefully talk about the first half. I think we decided on the first half. Yeah, so I'm supposed to get this chunk read by Monday night. So there's that. And then on top of that, I am participating in the mini Polarthon that is hosted by JD Ray Reads, Jade at JD Ray Reads. And she does the big sort of major main Polarthon in the month of February, which I think I may also try to participate in. But for December, she decided to host a mini Polarthon that's just for the weekend. So it's actually tomorrow, Friday, December 4th, and then Saturday the 5th and Sunday the 6th, those 3 days. And the idea is that you basically, it's the Polarthon, so you read a polar fantasy, that sort of is her thing. You read a polar fantasy and you give yourself a weekend of self-care. So yeah, that sounds fantastic to me. So my hope is between finishing this one and reading the necessary sections for these 2, that I can also read an entire polar fantasy for Polarthon. And the polar fantasy that I have is The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden, and this is an adult polar fantasy. Obviously, it's very wintry. It takes place in medieval Russia, and it has to do with Russian folklore and the main girl, who I think has some sort of like magical gift. I don't know if she's like a witch, but she like loves the old Russian fairy tales that she is told as a child, one of which includes the story of Frost, which is the blue-eyed winter demon. And I think that she has some sort of connection to like these spirits that are maybe threatening her village, and she has to do something about it. I'm not entirely sure. That's sort of the gist that I get from this, but I've heard good things. It's the first in a trilogy, and I've heard a lot of people say that they really like it, but I've also heard that it is slow. This one is very like atmospheric, and it has a very slow beginning with like lots of description. I'm not too sure how that's gonna go for me. I went ahead and found the audiobook version for this as well. So throughout the weekend, as I am practicing some of my self-care, I will be able to listen to this on audiobook and then maybe switch back and forth between the audiobook version and my physical copy of this. So yeah, that is the plan. Hopefully by the end of this week, I will have read 4 books, and I'm telling that to you in hopes of holding myself accountable for getting my reading done, because if I'm going to read 12 books in a month, I have to stay on top of it. So these are the things that I'm hoping to read over the next week or so. I'm not entirely sure how much I will update you throughout this next week and a half-ish, especially because I do plan on vlogging the mini Polarthon separately. So hopefully by the time this video is up, that vlog will also be up if you want to go back and watch that. And yeah, I think that is all that I have to share for now. So I will check in with you guys later. Hello, it is later on Friday and I have finished Get a Life, Chloe Brown. And this book was so good. It was so cute. I love the romance. I love these 2 characters and I love them together. It's just so like soft and sweet, and I love how much positive representation there was in this book. I also just love Red as a character. So Red is the guy in this story. His name is Redford, but he also has red hair, and he is such a sweetheart. Like, he's such a sensitive guy, and I love it. I love that representation, honestly. I mean, there's so much going on. So Chloe lives with chronic pain, and so that's a big part of her life. She's also Black. She's also a big girl, which I can appreciate in a romance. And then Red is sort of like perceived as this like biker guy because he is always wearing this leather jacket and he has a motorcycle, but he is really sensitive. He's a painter, also deals a lot with like trauma and past abusive relationships and anxiety and going to therapy and the importance of that. And so all of that I just think is also so important to have represented positively. And so all of those things, in addition to just like the good romance, was, yeah, it was so good. I really, really like this one. And I'm like torn because I literally have here, I literally have Take a Hint, Dani Brown, which is the next one in the series. Dani Brown is Chloe Brown's sister, and I just want to like jump into this one next, but I also have other things that I need to read, like my buddy reads that I have, which are also right here. These are the other ones that I need to read. Oh no, that's not this one, but I am reading this one. That's the fantasy, polar fantasy that I'm reading. The other buddy read that I have is this one. So I have these buddy reads and I have my polar fantasy, but like I feel like I'm on such a romance kick right now, and I just want to start this one because I've heard that this one is also so good. Do I start this tonight? I mean, I could start it tonight, but I know if I start it, I'm gonna probably want to keep reading it. Yeah, I don't know. I might go ahead and just start this, because why not? You know? I could probably read for another hour before I go to bed. December 8th. I don't even know what the last thing I vlogged was for this particular vlog. I've taken a bit of a break because I participated in the Polarthon weekend retreat readathon hosted by Jade from JD Ray Reads. And that took place over Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And I vlogged that completely separately. So it should be up on my channel if you're interested in going back and watching that vlog. I have not edited any of it yet. I don't even really remember some of the things that I filmed. Who knows when it'll go up, but yeah, if you're interested in watching it, you can go back and watch that. I will let you know what I actually read this weekend. So the mini Polarthon readathon was to have a weekend of self-care, which I am all about, and to read at least one polar fantasy, which is like Jade's whole thing. She absolutely loves polar fantasy, and that's the whole point of her Polarthon readathon, is to encourage people to read polar fantasy, which is not a genre that I have really read anything in, I don't think, except for what I read this weekend, which was The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden, and I loved this book. I was actually very intimidated by this book going into it, but I was wrong. I absolutely loved this book. I enjoyed it so much. I was so very pleasantly surprised by how much I liked this book, especially towards the end. This is the first book in the Winter Night trilogy, and so this book really was sort of setting up Vazia as a character, and we got to learn with her of the powers that she has and the role that she sort of has to play in her society. There's lots of magic. It is beautifully written. It is very atmospheric, but I never felt bored. I was still very intrigued the whole time about what was going on and what was going to happen. And by the end, I mean, I was just flying through by the end to figure out how this was all going to end. And now that I've finished this one, I know for sure that I'm going to be continuing with the trilogy, and I'm very excited to read these other books, which I wasn't even sure if I was going to be interested in those going into this. I was like, I'll like try the first book and I may or may not like it. We'll see. But no, I actually really loved this. I really loved this book and am very proud of myself for like pushing myself outside my comfort zone and picking up a fantasy novel and having it be the start of a fantasy trilogy that I am now very excited to read. So this like is giving me hope that I will possibly very much enjoy the other fantasies that I have picked out for my December TBR. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to read more fantasy. Like, who is she? I think the last thing that you maybe saw me read in this video was Take a Hint, Dani Brown. And I think I read like one chapter of this before jumping into some other things. But this like is definitely one that is at the top of my list that I will be jumping back into here pretty shortly. But the other books that I have to read more recently even than that are The Silent Patient and The Lost Causes of Bleak Creek. These are my two thrillers that I have for this month, and they are also my two buddy reads. So I am in the middle of this one. I am currently on page 79, and I just started chapter 5 of part 2. And yeah, this one's interesting. I am intrigued. I'm not as intrigued as I had anticipated. I had heard from several people that this was one that they just like couldn't put down. I obviously still am very interested in seeing what happens and like what's going on with her, and I guess I should explain what this book is about. I don't think I've actually explained that yet in this particular video. So The Silent Patient is about a woman named Alicia. I thought it was Alicia, but since listening to the audiobook, it is pronounced Alicia. And she as of this moment, is currently in like a psych ward because she murdered her husband. She shot him in the face 5 times and stopped talking. Like, she didn't talk to police, she didn't talk to any doctors, she didn't talk to anyone, and it has since been 6 years since she has uttered any words to anyone, and no one really knows the story of what happened and like why she killed her husband. I'm wondering like if she killed her husband at all, and like that's kind of playing into what's going on. But basically we're getting 2 alternating perspectives between her diary entries. Sorry, Lily is rubbing against my camera. So we're getting these alternating perspectives between Alicia's diary entries from back before the murder, like leading up to the murder. And then we're also getting like a present day perspective from her psychotherapist, who is named Theo, I think. Yeah, Theo Faber is her psychotherapist, and he like specifically got this job at this place so that he could meet her and work with her and like try to figure out what happened. So he's very invested in her story and getting her to talk and knowing what's happening. But we're also getting like some backstory into his life and like where he's coming from, and so that's also kind of interesting, and I'm curious to see like how their relationship develops over the course of this story. And then also just to know like what happens, like what actually happened. It's interesting. Lily! No. And then this one, I for sure have to read some of tonight because I am meeting with Taylor to talk about this, and I haven't read our little section yet. We're gonna meet tomorrow, and I am supposed to have read up to chapter 6, which is page 78. So I have some reading to do for this. I still have some reading to do for this. And then outside of these, I know the next one I really want to dedicate some time to is this one. And that's it. These are my 3 like current reads. I don't know if you are someone who reads multiple books at one time, but that has definitely become the case for me, especially if I'm reading buddy reads in addition to like a personal read. That's just the reality of the situation. So I am going to actually not read, and I'm going to instead film my November wrap-up, which I have not filmed yet, and it is the 8th of December, but that's okay. I'm going to film that and talk about all the books that I read in November, which is exciting. And then I'm going to read this one, the Lost Causes of Bleak Creek. I'm going to read that one for sure tonight. And then I may read more of this, or I may go ahead and read more of this. We'll just see where the night takes us, and I will update you at some later point. I will talk to you guys later. Hi guys, it is Thursday, and I have some reading updates for you. So last night, I actually met up with my friend Taylor, and we talked about our buddy read for this month, which is The Lost Causes of Bleak Creek, and we are through our first sort of section, which is up to chapter 6. So we read the first 5 chapters and are currently on page 78 of this one. And it's cute. It's very different from the thriller that we read last month, which was The Woman in the Window. And the sort of blurb on the back says that it's John Green meets Stranger Things, which I am seeing. So we have 2 main characters who are like 8th grade boys going into 9th grade. And they are making this movie, and they have a friend named Alicia who is part of their little friend group, and she's obviously making the movie with them. And right at the start of the story, something happens with that. that sort of gets Alicia into trouble, and she ends up going to this reform school. Bleak Creek teens live in constant fear of being sent to the Whitewood School, a local reformatory with a reputation for putting unruly youths back on the straight and narrow. A record so impeccable that almost everyone is willing to ignore the suspicious deaths that have occurred there over the past decade. So their friend basically gets taken, physically taken, and is sent to this school, and her two friends are, going to have to try and figure out how to rescue her, essentially. As far as the dynamic between the three friends, I am definitely getting like the Stranger Things sort of friend group vibe, or even like the It friend group vibe. This story takes place in the 1990s, so there's obviously lots of references to things that were going on there and like pop culture and that sort of stuff, and it definitely feels like that sort of 80s, 90s, nerdy friend group sort of dynamic, which I think is fun. Like, as someone who works with teenagers, there are moments when you're like, wow, this is really cheesy, or this is really juvenile, but I think that's because that's just how teenagers think. So like some of the thoughts that are going through their minds, or like the conversations that they have, are just like, you guys are 8th grade boys. So it's humorous in that way. I'm intrigued about what the heck is going on in the school. We're sort of getting like cult vibes. So yeah, this is cute. It's fun. I'm intrigued. We're about a quarter of the way through the story, and we're going to get to the halfway point, hopefully by this weekend, to be able to talk about the next section. So I'm liking this one so far. I have no idea if I read anything of this one since I last updated you. My bookmark, I'm also on page 79 of this book, chapter 5 of part 2. And this one's good so far too. Really though, the book that I am most excited about right now is Take a Hint, Dani Brown. This is the sequel to, or like companion novel to, Get a Life, Chloe Brown, which I also finished this past week. And I started this one last week, and I think I had only read the prologue. So I was on page 7, and then I picked it back up last night and read to page 273. So I stayed up way too late last night, devouring this book. I really thought I might just finish it all in one sitting, but I eventually just was like so exhausted I had to go to bed. But the plan is to finish this right now because I am loving it. It is obviously similar to Get a Life, Chloe Brown in the writing style. You can tell that Chloe and Dani are sisters. I think they are similar in a lot of ways, but also very different in a lot of ways, and I appreciate the differentiation between their characters and their romances, right? They're having very different experiences. If I had to choose between Red and Zaf, I don't know. What I really like about both of them is that they are so, like, soft and vulnerable, and honestly that's like a huge part of this book in particular for Zaf, because he is like an ex-rugby player. Something happened and he experienced some trauma, and he ended up retiring from that and now works as a security guard, but he runs a charity called Tackle It for young boys, and they play rugby, but also the things that they are tackling are toxic masculinity and like being able to be a boy or a man in today's society and being able to tackle your emotions and your feelings, being able to talk about your feelings, being able to acknowledge your emotions, have conversations about them, recognize that it's okay to feel your feelings, it's okay to be vulnerable, it's okay to talk about them, and he is just, I just love that about his character and like the work that he's doing with these kids. And I think that it's so interesting that like alongside the romance that's happening in this, that's a constant conversation that's coming back up, are like these issues of toxic masculinity and how so many men don't want to talk about their feelings. And Zaf has reached a point in his life where he's not afraid to do that. And so he's helping these boys, and he's also helping Danny in a lot of ways to acknowledge her own feelings and to be vulnerable and allow herself to be loved by someone. I also love how much representation is in this book. Danny is Black, she is a big girl, she is an academic, she has pink hair, she's bisexual. And then Zaf, he's a rugby player, he is fighting against toxic masculinity, he's Muslim. Like, it's just, there's so many good things happening in this book. I am loving it. And if you have read this and you've read Get a Life, Chloe Brown, which also has a lot of great representation, and if you've read either of those books and you know of other books similar that have this same kind of like vibe, please let me know, because Talia Hibbert, my God. I know that there's one more book after this one, which is about the third sister named Eve, and it comes out next year in 2021, so I am super excited for that one. I am going to love seeing her love story as well. And I've basically come to the conclusion that anything that Talia Hibbert writes, I will read. Okay, so I'm getting kind of rambly now, and I really just want to sit down and finish this book, so I'm going to do that, and I will check in with you guys later. I finished Take a Hint, Dani Brown, and I just loved it so much. I don't know if I, like, which of these I love more. They were both so good. Dare I say, 5-star reads for me, both of them. And I am just so ready for Talia Hibbert to write more because I love her romance novels. They are just so good. As far as like any actual thoughts on this, I talked about a lot in my last little update, but it's just one of those where like you keep thinking they're gonna get together and then they just keep getting in their own way, which is so frustrating, but also makes the ending like that much more satisfying. Like Get a Life, Chloe Brown, this one also switches between the two different perspectives. So you're switching from Danny, who is very independent and very confident and really is like a total badass. And then you have Zav, who's just really soft and really sweet. He loves romance novels. He cares about the kids in his program. Their relationship is just so cute, and I just loved it so much. So really, we're about a third of the way through the month, and I have read 3 books that I absolutely loved. These are all 5 stars for me, which has been a great way to start my month, but I'm also like a little nervous because I'm like, are any of the other books that I'm gonna read going to live up to what I've already read? Because these were so good. I was really expecting to like these. I was surprised by this one, but I loved all 3. So I have read 3 of the 12 that I'm hoping to read in the month of December. I'm also in the middle of 2 current reads, and I'm like looking at my stack of books over there. I'll probably start another one tonight, but I will let you guys know what that is in my next vlog, because I think I'm actually going to end this vlog here because I feel like this is a good stopping point, and I have no idea how long this vlog is going to be because I have not started editing any of it, because of course I haven't. But I hope that it turns out okay, and thank you guys so much for watching this video. Again, if you've read any of the ones that I've talked about, please let me know your thoughts, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.